Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Sound of Self podcast. This is Erin here, and today I'm interviewing Mel, the amazing visionary artist known as Mama Whiteline, craftswoman, ceremonialist, retreat facilitator, naturopath, transpersonal art therapist, and so much more. Melly has over 20 years of experience traveling to sacred sites around the world, studying with indigenous cultures, everywhere from the Isle of Man, all of the Americas, Europe, and more. She is an amazing way shower and world bringer. She is the woman who really knows what it means to connect to oneself and earth and the cycles of nature, as we were talking before. As someone who has actually helped me personally craft my own shamanic drum. It was such a beautiful journey with you, Melly. And I'm so excited for you to be talking more about that today and sharing your journey as a drum facilitator and so much more with our ability and the way that we can really connect to our own voices through the drum. So, would love to know your take on all of this.
Thanks so much, Erin. I really appreciate sharing this time with you. I'm super passionate, as you know, about all things around the drum, but particularly the way that it has changed my life, and particularly the way that I share my voice and my work in the world.
Mm.
And I see time and time again, with all of the people that come and craft their drums with me, so many different layers of trauma and constriction and tension and self-judgment and criticism around their voice and their expression and their creativity, that all begins to lighten and clear and shift as they firstly reclaim the drum as a tool and an instrument, but also through working with
Mm.
it for themselves first and foremost, but also then in their work and their practice in circles and sound healing and breath work and many other ways.
Yeah, and I love how every step of that process that you took us through, I was lucky enough to have quite a small group when I was working with Mel, so we got to spend a lot of one-on-one time. It was really a process of stripping away the layers as we created this new thing. And I love how you really guided us through that in such a grounded and feminine way, because for me, I didn't even know that women were the holders of the drum. That was a big moment for me when you taught us about the history of drum and how women were really so powerful. We had this way of connecting to the earth with the drum. I used to think that was quite a masculine aspect.
Yeah, that's right. It is a bit of a misunderstanding, I think, and perhaps, deliberate misconstruing of history. That, a lot of women, and particularly white women, are faced with, the genocide of their culture and their lineage as, old European, Anglo-Saxon, right back into the Celtic pagan
Mm.
times. And there's an amnesia that has occurred generation after generation, as well as the intergenerational trauma. And so it's only natural that, people would have forgotten over time that this instrument was actually a fundamental, if not central, aspect of our native indigenous roots as earth worshipping people once upon a time, and particularly was carried by women through rites of passage, the birthing of babies, during death rites when people were passing away, at different seasonal cycles, singing to the seeds or singing to the sun and to the earth, and particularly in the worshipping of the goddess and the earth as the sort of manifestation of the divine feminine, great mother, Mother Earth.
Yeah. And you were mentioning before about the natural rhythms and how we connect to that. And the drum is a really beautiful way for us to actually connect to our own natural rhythm, rhythm as a woman. We go through the menstrual cycle, but I think a lot of us are quite out of touch with that in the way we live through the Western world. So how can we use that to connect more with the drum?
Well, it's the most profound, one of the most profound things about the drum is that, firstly, the sound of the drum is so natural, like the natural frequency and vibration of the drum actually mimics the sound of our mother's heart as we were being formed in utero. And so our eardrums are actually being created from this pulsing sound of our mother's blood through her body. And so it's the most innate experience that we have as we are coming into materialization. And so, in working with that sound, vibration, and frequency, we're able to ground back into that place, into that regulation of connection, of protection, of being held and nurtured and nourished, and the in between liminal space between, the form and the formless.
Mm.
And in that place, when the nervous system is regulated and we feel safe, a natural opening begins to happen, and we're able to, just like a child emotes. It's not thinking about whether it sounds good or bad or right or wrong or within pitch or not pitch. In fact, a lot of children deliberately use distorted sound effects to get good attention, and so it enables us to really get back to our primal nature and our expressive nature and begin to explore the body as an instrument in all its ranges of tonality, and the extension of our expression, but also the releasing of emotion through sound, like the emotional clearing that occurs through the different sounds that our body makes. And the drum enables really, an entrainment into that natural cycle, into the natural rhythms that are kind of encoded actually in the symbolic, metaphoric language of the instrument in itself, which I could speak more to in a moment, but that's a whole, next kind of level of the paradigm that the drum is imbued and kind of connected to.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you're saying. And this is something I talk about a lot with voice activation, is how we have that deep remembering in us when we start working with it and start activating things. Like I've had so many clients where ever since I've used the drum, it's been a whole deeper level that I've been able to go other than just using sound bowls, because we've had that misconnection to the earth. And I think it just helps release it in such a beautiful way. As you said, regulates the nervous system, creates a safe space to actually explore those really ugly sounds that we might judge ourselves to hear straight away, that children have no problem, you know, reenacting. But it's so funny. What do you think stops us? Like we get to that point where we can't be that way anymore. What do you think might cause that?
I'm a pretty firm believer that it was educated out of us.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty firm believer it was educated out of us. We naturally are like love-seeking creatures. And so when we don't receive the love that we're hoping to receive, and we're being told to stop making that sound, or sit down and be quiet, or only speak when you're spoken to, like that stuff also triggers deeper ancestral remembrances of being silenced, of being persecuted for singing and dancing around the fire. I mean, let's be really honest. All of the drums were actually burnt with the people that carried them. Like there's some pretty significant cellular memory there of being shut down, silenced, and oppressed, and told to, yeah, to sound good and nice and pretty.
Mm.
Um, and I feel like, even though there's a beauty and a mastery in being able to, yeah, master the voice and the sounds and the tones and the notes and all of these things, it's also a very new modern concept. you know, in the scheme of the timeline of humanity, it's a pretty modern concept, this thing of being in tune.
I know, and it's good that it's starting to catch on. I feel people are starting to open themselves up more to this. But I want to circle back to something that you actually said to me when we were in the drum making workshop, which was us being the bridge between the sort of realms when it comes to the drum. I know you had said something about that, probably put it in better words than me, but I just love that connection you had where we were holding the drum with one hand, and the way you explained it was so beautiful there. There was this really wonderful fluidity and flow when it came to making the sound, being the heartbeat, and being the extension of that sound as a human, and then connecting to our deeper truths and the spiritual world versus the Western technology and all that jazz. Can you talk to me more about that?
Oh gosh, that's a whole nother podcast.
Bring it on, I say.
Look, I'm very much, you know, of the belief and lived experience of us being a manifestation of spirit and nature, and the unifying point at where, yes, spirit and matter come into form, and the marriage of those, you know, those worlds, and how we exist here in this three-dimensional reality. And I also really personally am witnessing and observing and experiencing, you know, this shifting in the age of Pisces to Aquarius, and this kind of shamanic renaissance that's occurring, while simultaneously AI and technology is also becoming so advanced and available to the people. And so it's like we're in an initiation as a species. Humanity is being initiated into their own kind of lived experience. Life is initiating us into our own kind of shamanic power of, how do I bridge these two worlds? How do I bridge between my innate connection to the earth and my dependency and my interrelatedness to the air and the earth and the water and the fire, and then also have the ability to navigate this interdimensional realm of the celestial, spiritual, unseen, untangible, formless space, and be able to be grounded here in the middle, of these polarities, which is really the work of the shaman, to be able to be so deep in the underworld, and be able to journey so deep into the upper world, but to be able to be grounded and safe here, elicit our power here in the middle world. And the drum is actually very much like a tool that enables us to practice that journey from deep within us to outside of us to into the darkness, into the light, and remaining here in the heart at the center of all of those forces.
I absolutely love how you put that. It's so magical. And I think it's such a big thing that people are looking for right now. They really are searching for that bridge and that way to connect to themselves with such a crazy changing environment around us. AI, everything is starting to really flip, and people aren't sure where to look or where to find their inner guidance system. So, that grounding with the drum is such a simple and beautiful way to do it. So, what other things can we do? I think, we're talking about the shamanic role to remain grounded to the rhythm and the drum in that way.
Well, look, you know, you said it perfectly in terms of, you know, this like inner guidance. You know, the drum is actually very much like a compass. It's like an externalized version of the compass, which enables us to get a sense of, you know, where we are in the seasons and the cycles that are occurring in nature, but also in ourselves. And in there, you know, in terms of being able to look after ourselves and, um, you know, take care in these turbulent times, which are very much a transformation, an initiation,
Transition, as you said.
a
I
big,
like the
yeah,
initiation. Yeah.
yeah, a big transition, you know, like it's stirring up a lot. And so remaining really connected with the earth and taking care of your body with what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're exposing yourself to, staying connected with the water and making sure that you cleanse yourself and recognize the actual purifying power of water, to be in contact with good quality water and having, yeah, really recognizing that it's purifying, having relationship with the fire, having relationship with your breath. The elements are actually the fundamental aspects of maintaining wellness here in this third dimension on this planet. They are part of our extended family as such, and they're available to all of us free of charge. To be able to take care of ourselves. And it really is a matter of building relation with them and recognizing that without those elements, we actually could not exist here on the planet.
Exactly. And I love how when we were creating this drum, we were creating everything that was from natural fibers and natural elements. There was nothing, man-made within what we did, even from the way we sanded the hoop and the beautiful process of getting the skin and sitting with that and letting it dry out, and then the weaving process, which for me was when all the stuff came up on how to actually weave it without breaking the string. And yeah, but I remember you saying something else around the seasons of the drum and how different areas of the drum represented different parts of us with the seasons. So that was going through, say, our winter and our summer and our autumn. Can you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, in the circle of the drum, and when you look at kind of the Native American sort of indigenous medicine wheel, and also, the Celtic pagan wheel of time, there is an acknowledgement of the different directions and the seasonal association of those directions. And so all of that is mapped out in the circle, in the compass that I just referred to, in understanding where we are in those seasons and those cycles of our own life. And so the east, where the sun rises, is the place of childhood. And when we work through that wheel, depending on which hemisphere we're in, the northern hemisphere cycles clockwise and the southern hemisphere circles anti-clockwise. But essentially, all of us are turning through these seasons of the inner and outer spring, the inner and outer summer, the inner and outer autumn, the inner and outer winter. And all of those seasons actually have something really powerful to teach us about ourselves. And not only for us in our kind of emotional, psychological growth and maturation, but also for our ancestors who, if they had not been in relationship with the seasonality around them, they wouldn't have known, they wouldn't have planted the seeds at the right time. They wouldn't have harvested the fruits at the right time, and they would have perished in the winter. Like it was essential to life
Yeah.
to observe and participate in those cycles that were happening in the environment, and acknowledging what was taking place in the environment. We also recognize that this is happening within us, and particularly it's very, very evident, and there's a lot of beautiful work done all throughout time by many incredible women around the cycle of a woman's menstruation cycle, and how in that 1 month cycle we also move through our spring, our summer, our autumn, and our winter, and we're moving through that every month. And so too are men in their own testosterone hormonal cycles. So we are like intrinsically made up of these seasons and cycles, just by our very nature of existing here on the planet Earth.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Melly. I just love everything you're saying. And my brain's going three different directions. Like, I could talk about this, this, this. Um, so to wrap this up, if you were helping someone, if you wanted to give someone, I suppose, a golden nugget of wisdom, how would they move through the cycles best? How would they transition best? with everything that you know and what you've been through?
I think the most important thing is to slow down, actually. And particularly in this Western world that is just so driven on caffeine and sympathetic nervous system arousal, which is like a trauma, flight, fright, fight, fawn, freeze
Yeah.
response. Life goes very, everything is very fast. There's constantly a million things to take care of. There's so much noise in the world coming at us from all directions, whether it's from, social media, the news, the down at the mall, all of the things. And so just simply slowing down and taking time and orienting back to our breath and back to our body, and why meditation and breath work and sound healing have become so popularized in this last little while
Mhm.
is because it helps us to reorient back towards deeper listening and learning how to listen deeper, so that we're not just responding to superficial noise in the environment. We're actually coming home to our own inner guidance, our own inner compass, our own inner knowing of the reality that we have everything we need to be able to take care of ourselves, and that we don't need to continually outsource our self-care to other people, when we can go for a walk on the beach, we can drink some lemon squeezed in water, we can sit around a fire with our friends and share stories about what we're going through. There we can make art on a piece of paper, or just simply with collected natural objects on the earth. Like, there are so many ways to nourish our relationship with life and to find richness and wealth in life that can't actually be sold to us, that we need to find it for ourselves. And I think that's why, the crafting of a drum and these natural instruments is so powerful, because it reminds us of the fact that once upon a time, our ancestors would have prepared themselves to go out and to hunt this animal and to honor its life and to make use of all of its parts and all the ways in which that animal nurtured and nourished the tribe and the community. And then from that came this instrument that was then honoring that relationship between themselves and the animal and nature, and the process of death and transformation, and this gift that just keeps on giving through our reciprocity, the giving and receiving with nature, with the earth, with our life here. And what actually we're doing here as a species, like, what is it that we're actually, what is this life really about for each one of us, and how do we really receive the gifts of our life, rather than just work our lives away and
Yeah.
get to
In
the
the
end.
rat race.
Yeah, get to the end of it with a house full of things, wondering, like, what did I do with my life?
Yeah.
Like, what was this all about?
Thank you so much, Melly. You are so just your energy is so beautifully grounded and wise, and I do really appreciate you coming to chat about all of the things today. So really at the end of the day, it's just get back to nature, right? It's so simple. So if you would love to work with Melly and create a drum with her, she has so many wonderful offerings online. I will pop her details in the below. But other than that, thank you so much for coming along to the podcast today. And may we enjoy the cycle, the cycle of life.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Erin. Such a pleasure to be able to, to share with you again. And I really appreciate your time.